Social identity in multiplayer games talks about the kind of roles players assume when they play games, and these can greatly differ from the roles they play in real life. For example, a person might be really competitive when playing Mario Kart, where they're really relaxed and laid back in person. And while I don't play too many online multiplayer games, I have had quite a bit of experience with two-player games or a few multiplayer games like Super Smash Bros., which I will discuss. For example, in that game, after getting past the initial learning curve, it does get very competitive. I find myself getting into that competitive mindset I just previously mentioned. And, it kind of creates a rhetoric similar to sports where it's really high energy and maybe even some trash talking involved. And then there are other games, like maybe another two-player game or a two-player game, for example, that I've played where it takes two, or even the Lego Hobbit. Those games, again, I think a basis for multiplayer games and them being enjoyable is the proficiency of each player. So if you're playing with people who maybe aren't as good as you or can't move as quickly or aren't even familiar with the controls, it's not going to be as enjoyable, which is the experience I've had in some online multiplayer games. So in reference to these two-player games, sometimes it can cause tension when someone like me misses a jump 4 times and the person I'm playing with has already made it across the cavern or the jump or whatever. But it is also very team building there. I mean, for example, in The Hobbit, there are multiple things that you can't do without a partner. So it creates a sense of community almost compared to Super Smash Bros., where it is almost distinctly individualistic and that competitive one versus another, unless of course you're playing on teams, and then still it is your team versus another team, whether that's an NPC or other people that you're playing with in the room. In games that you don't have to be competitive, like Super Smash Bros., or where you're not necessarily working towards a goal, like It Takes Two or The Hobbit, it creates a space for a new development of rhetoric almost. Games for example, when I used to play Minecraft with family or friends, it was very different, specifically not in survival mode, but in creative, where there's really no danger, there's no threat, you're just, be able to be creative and build stuff. So it creates a space where you're just talking about what you're doing, and it's much more, I guess you could simply say, in my opinion, it's much more calm and soothing in a sense, and it creates a sort of social identity that is less competitive and more cooperative and less stressful and more easily to relax and let creative freedom fly. So depending on what kind of game you're playing, there are a lot of different identities one can assume, and one doesn't need to assume the same identity across all games.